ओ ओ ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमु रामाय तस्मै नमः रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम् रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् Hari Om everyone. In the last four verses, we have been seeing the role of Avarana Shakti, what it does inside and what it does outside. And Vidyaranya Swamiji said, this Avarana Shakti is the cause of samsara. Inside, it hides the difference between drashta and buddhi or ahankara. And outside, it hides the difference between the substratum, which is consciousness, and the names and forms. Brahma and Sarga. Sarga means name and form. Brahman is the substratum. So all modifications happen in Sarga, means in the name and form, not in the substratum. Here, this example we should keep in mind. There can be a big wave, there can be a small wave, ferocious wave. All those modifications are happening in Nama Rupa, the name and form, but not in the water. Then we went to the topic, we concluded with this topic that what Vedanta does is it reveals what is already a matter of fact. That is called as pramana. Just like if we have a book, right, which has, let us say, green color cover on it. Now our eyes will not create that green color, it will just reveal that color as it is. So pramana does not create or produce anything new. Now with green color, maybe it is not that significant if I don't know that color. But when it comes to my nature, who am I? What is my true nature? If I don't know, I will always mix it up with something else. So pramana has come just to clearly point out the difference between both of them. Not having known this difference and mixing it up together is called as bondage. Not knowing that they are two different things and mixing these two different things together is called as bondage. What we saw as jivatva. In consciousness, seeing the attributes of what is not part of consciousness. Buddhi dharma is seen in sakshi. Dharma means attribute. So that we should keep in mind in terms of what do we mean by liberation. Sometimes there are different ideas about liberation. Liberation means, some unique experience, some special experience. But here in Vedanta, liberation is clearly understanding what is Sakshi and clearly knowing what is superimposed on Sakshi. I'm using the word superimposed because whatever is showing up in Sakshi doesn't have its own existence. That is why that word superimposed is important. So this is pramana. The reason we discuss this is for us to have clear understanding about what is the nature of liberation. Liberation is not something which is going to come in time. I am already of the nature of Sakshi. I am already of the nature of consciousness. I just have to remove what I am erroneously including. And removing also is through knowledge. Then what is this nirmana portion? Pramana we said and nirmana. Nirmana is always of something which we don't have right now and it will come in some time. We have Setu Nirmana project, right? Means bridge building project. Means what? That bridge is not there right now. It has to be built. So when we look at ourselves, we should think, what is it that I don't have sufficiently right now? So that portion is the sadhana chatushtaya, qualification portion. What we call as purity of mind, that takes time. That is something which will come in time. That we cannot say is pramanajanya. Because I know one should have a pure mind, I will not get a pure mind. I will have to put forth effort in that direction. That is the nirmana of this sadhaka. To be able to come to effortlessly let go of nama rupa. Today's shloka that we are going to see will highlight this point. Okay, but I hope those two words are clear. What is pramana and what is nirmana? When we hear the statement that liberation does not come in time, but we don't see it that way. We feel like liberation, I'm not liberated right now. Liberation will come in time. One day I will be liberated. Then how should we understand that? What is meant there is, my nature as consciousness is ever attained. It will not come in time, and Vedanta will not create that consciousness. When it comes to purity of mind, that will come in time. And when that happens, whenever that happens, I will be able to effortlessly own up this knowledge. Own up this knowledge also, what does it mean? Means when a situation comes in my life, I'll be able to use knowledge to solve that problem. Whenever a situation comes, instead of using my old methods, either getting upset with somebody or getting upset with myself or trying to find some reason why the situation has come, now if knowledge has settled down, the first thought should be that nothing has happened because I am of the nature of consciousness. As pure consciousness, I am abhokta. Everything which I am experiencing is only of this ahankara. That is the absolute step. One level down is karma. To say that this is my own karma phala which is coming back now. So I will handle it. Bhagwan, give me the strength to face this situation. That is the second level. Having done that, third level is taking care of that situation at karma level. Whatever needs to be done has to be done, but we should just again and again appreciate what knowledge has given us. It has given us another shelter where we can get rooted and then operate in the world as needed. Okay, so we should never mix up both these things, Vyavahara and Paramartha. We should not say that because there is Vyavahara, how can I go to Paramartha? If we want to survive in Vyavahara, we should go to Paramartha. That is these two words, Pramana and Nirmana. Now, Vidyaranya Swamiji is wrapping up this topic. This is another beautiful shloka. This is the key for how to do meditation with eyes open. Okay, because later meditation portion, this is the shloka that he will elaborate now. This shloka also tells us what is the nature of Vyavaharik world. Like we saw Vyavaharik Jiva, this is more finer definition of Vyavaharik world. Asti bhati priyam rupam, asti bhati priyam rupam, nama chetyam shapanchakam, nama chetyam shapanchakam. Adyatrayam brahmarupam, adyatrayam brahmarupam, jagadrupam tatodvayam, jagadrupam tatodvayam. Asti bhati priyam rupam, nama chetyam shapanchakam, adyatrayam brahmarupam, jagadrupam tatodvayam. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama. Vidyaranya Swamiji says there are 5 aspects to any object that we take from this creation. Iti amsha panchakam. Amsha panchakam means 5 aspects. Panchakam is 5. Amsha means aspects. Amshi is that object. Amshi means that which has these 5 objects, 5 aspects. That is an object. What are they? Asti, it exists. Bhati, it is known. Priyam, it is dear. We will elaborate each word. Rupam, it has a form. And Nama, it has a name. But out of these 5, the second line is beautiful. Adyatrayam Brahma Rupam. The first 3 means existence. It exists, it is known, and it is dear. Vidyaranya Swamiji says those 3 belong to Brahma. Jagadrupam Tatodvayam. And the other 2, Nama Rupa, belong to Jagat. But all 5 of them will always appear together. I should have the ability to distinguish the first 3 from the last 2. Okay, so this is literal meaning of the shloka. Now let us see with an example. Generally, the example that is given for this is a pot. But every time it need not be a pot. Okay, it could be something that we are seeing around. So it becomes more practicable. I think that's a word, practicable. Meditation practice, if we have to do, we should understand how to bring this analysis from a pot to objects that we are seeing around us. Okay, let us take a coffee mug, for example. It would be probably there right in front of you right now. Now, what are the aspects of this coffee mug? The first thing is asti. Means it is. Unlike something which is absent, like example generally given is horns of a rabbit. So that is not manifest right now. But this object is there, So asti means it is there in front of me. It exists. Second is bhati. Bhati means it is known. And both these things will go together. we can know a thing only when it exists, right? So this object is there, and that object is existing, and that object is becoming known to me. This also we can understand. Third one is an interesting one. It is priyam. So it is difficult to understand this with regards to a pot, but with coffee mug we can understand it better. It is dear to me because it has some utility value or whatever that reason is. It not only exists, it is not only known, but it is also dear to me. Now somebody might say, there are some objects which are not dear to me. What about those? In the commentary I was reading yesterday, Puja Guruji has given example of a 3-pin plug. He says that 3-pin plug is not dear to me. So there we should understand it is always dear to somebody in this creation. Every object is dear to somebody or the other. So Guruji says there that 3-pin plug is dear to the one who made it. The inventor must have loved that 3-pin plug. Or whenever there is utility value, there that thing becomes dear to us. It could be even a very mundane object, but it is very dear at that time because of utility value. Anyway, different examples are coming, but I'll hold back. Garage sales that they do, that is a perfect example of this, Asti Bhati Priyam. Means what is not dear to me becomes so dear to somebody else. And they will come pay money for that thing which is not dear to you and take it away. And after some time, it is very likely that they put a garage sale and I go there and find that dear to me again. Same object which has gone there might come back here. But this is a very transactional way of looking at object. Now we'll come to the deeper aspect in the next part, but let us first understand the simpler portion. It is there, it is existing, it is known to me, and it is dear to me. Then comes Rupa. It has a specific form. And for every form, there has to be a name. This also we should think. Look around all objects that are there. Can you find any object which doesn't have a name? Form we can easily understand. Form is always there. Is there any object around us which doesn't have a name? I might not know the name, that is different, but it has a name. If you find something that doesn't have a name, let me know. I tried to find, I couldn't. Ultimately, it will boil down to Panchamahabhutas. Whatever we see in this creation are these 5 elements only. Even if you have not given a name to a special form, it will still be that Panchamahabhuta. So now, what is the main point of this shloka? That out of these 5 aspects, right? Asti Bhati Priyam Rupam Nama, Vidyaranya Swamiji says, the first 3 belong to consciousness. Means whenever I see an object, I should not only get stuck at Nama Rupa, because those belong to the world. And majority of the time, that object, that Nama Rupa only takes my attention away. Means I'm not able to even acknowledge this fact that there is something more happening than just this Nama Rupa, which is the first 3 portion. It is existing, and it is becoming known, and it is dear. So that aspect sometimes gets hidden by Nama Rupa. What we saw in Ishavasya Upanishad, Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Pihitam Mukham. what is being said there is that this sun which is there is covered by a orb, a golden disk, as though that is getting covered, that is covering the sun. Means what? That asti bhati priyam, that Satchit Ananda, pure consciousness, is covering or getting covered by Nama Rupa. But now let us see, how is this asti bhati priyam nature of consciousness? So asti, which is there in this object, existence doesn't belong to that object. Existence belongs to Atma, consciousness. Sadeva Somya idamagra asit. In Chandogya Upanishad, it is said, Sat alone was there at the beginning of creation. And that Sat alone is there even right now. That is what we call as existence. And what we are familiar with is existence of something which gets reflected in this object. Okay, this object, what we are seeing, existence is not there in the object, that object is appearing in existence. Okay, that is this asti. And as I said, asti bhati will go together. Existence and consciousness, that will always go together. So when we say it is known to Pramata. It is known to this person who is observing that object. And where does this ability to know come from? That knowing ability comes from consciousness. So an object, its existence can be established only when it becomes known. And it will always become known to an individual. And that individual, that ability to know it's not his original ability, it has come from consciousness, borrowed from consciousness. So bhati, whenever we see an object, if we are subtle and this thinking has become deeper, then we can shift our attention to that Chaitanya. Priyam, that is the third one. We say every object is dear because it gives us sukham. Any object, right, it becomes dear to us because there is some joy that we are deriving from that object. The moment that joy stops, sukham stops from that object, same object becomes source of dukkham. Our Swamiji used to give an example. He used to say, let's say there is a room, and all brahmacharis used to say, brahmacharis are sitting in that room, and somebody comes with a bag full of, let us say, lot of wealth and so many other things. He gave an example of, lot of money is there in that bag, and they come and leave it there. Now, money is source of sukham. It is attraction. Now, this person who is sitting there, let us say somebody wants to go and get this money. But right at that time, let's say the cops come in and say, whose bag is this? Now, this person who was ready to get up to take that bag, he will sit down back again. Why? Because that same object which he thought was giving him sukham now started giving dukkham, or he started anticipating dukkham from that object. So this is the fact about objects. Why is it dear to us? Because it gives us sukham. Now come step closer. What gives us sukham? Why are we seeking sukham? Because I feel I am this body. Wherever I have mixed up anything with consciousness, there I will have I notion. So in body, I have I notion. In mind, I have I notion. So because I notion is in different places, there I am seeking this sukham. Okay, either for this body or for this ahankara. But actually speaking, if we go a step further, then we come to realize the true source of I, the true meaning of I is consciousness alone. The true meaning of Sukham is Atma alone. And that is what is most dear to me. Because of that, I am seeking everything else in this world. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Misunderstanding or mixing up that ananda with something else. Okay, either with ahankara first, then with body, or with objects. Whenever I have mixed up that ananda, I start feeling ananda is in that object. But actually, if we inquire, it will come back to Atma. So, in that way, Asti is nature of Atma, Satswarupa. Bhati, its ability to become known, is also due to nature of consciousness, Chaitanya Swarupa. And Ananda is also the nature of consciousness only, because of which our outside objects are dear to us. This statement takes a long time to understand and appreciate and also own up. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. For the sake of Atma alone, everything else is dear to us. Thing is not dear to us because of, for the sake of that thing. So first step we should understand is there is sukham coming from that object. That is why it is dear to me. But actual source of sukham is not even from that objects. It is from Atma alone. I have mixed it up or misunderstood that ananda to be coming from object. You know, Akhandanand Ji Maharaj used to make a very powerful statement. He used to say, until today, there is no object which has given joy to man. There is no person who has given happiness to any person, any sadhaka. It is only Atmananda that has gotten reflected in this mind, which we have mixed up with outside objects. But the main point of this whole analysis is that whenever we are taking an object, we should be able to do this kind of separation between Asti Bhati Priyam and Nama Rupa. But you know, there is a word of caution here that we should not start with objects where we have Raga Dvesha. Because instead, rather than doing Chintanam of Asti Bhati Priyam, we will start getting more attached to that object. You know, we might have a very noble intention, but that intention will be swept away with this Nama Rupa only. So we should take objects which are sattvic. That is why, you know, mountains, scenery, or just things which are not too, you know, bothering. Those things are good to do this analysis, because this is meditation on outside world. Right? At night also, by the way, these mountains are our San Jose mountains. And whenever we see the night sky, anything, and even around us, objects that are not going to take our attention away, those objects we should take and separate Nama Rupa from Asti Bhati Priyam. You know, this question, I'll conclude here. This question also used to bother me a lot before. See, on one side we say that we should negate the world. And on another side we say that world is divine, world is of the nature of Brahman. Means what is it that I should negate and what is it that I should see divinity in? Sometimes it is said we should have vairagya towards the world, and sometimes it is said that world is divine, everything is Brahma. So this is that shloka which helps us get clarity about this topic. What we should negate is Nama Rupa. When we say world is divine, what we mean is it is of the nature of Asti Bhati Priyam, which is nature of consciousness, Atma. Both will appear together all the time. Through knowledge, we should learn what to keep and what to let go of. We'll pause here and then take a few questions. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So there is one small shloka. I mean, shloka is the same, but the idea is small. After that, we will enter into preparation for meditation. So the next two sessions that we are having, we will take that topic. And I will take it from Ashtanga Yoga standpoint, because a lot of preparation for meditation comes from Ashtanga Yoga. So we'll just look at the key, principles, so that before we break for winter, we'll have that concept covered. There was one question here regarding what I mentioned last time about creation. What I mentioned means what Vidyaranya Swamiji is mentioning. I'm trying to understand how to differentiate between what Vedanta says and what science says. If I think scientifically, every expression in this universe is an expression of atoms going down all the way until the subatomic particles and also basic energy like string or quantum, whichever. But unlike Vedanta, that tells me that there is bliss and divinity in the substratum, and everything that is based on this according to our scriptures. Science doesn't talk about it as a bliss or ultimate happiness. Is there anything that our scriptures can give guidance in this aspect? There are a couple of things here. One is that science will have its own vocabulary and Vedanta will have its own vocabulary. And I feel as students, as sadhakas, we should not mix up both of them. Because we'll get thoroughly confused. We will try to use science vocabulary in Vedanta and Vedantic vocabulary in science. Means when we use the word dark matter, we will say it is maybe Maya. So we don't know what exactly is the precise meaning of those words. So best way is understand what is the precise meaning in Vedantic vocabulary. Means when Maya is said, all those words that we saw, they should hit. Brahmashraya, Trigunatmika, Anirvachaniya, Avyakta Rupa, Paramesha Shakti, all those words, means they should not just remain words. There should be clarity about what is this Maya and how it is appearing right now. So that is the first point. We should not try to mix up vocabulary. Now the second is, both these subjects have different fields of expertise. And none of them are here to refute each other. So we saw in Living Vedanta, Pujya Guruji had mentioned this point. Yad vishaye pramanam yata janiyat tat pramanatah. Tad vivekatah, I think. Means whatever is the valid means of knowledge in a particular subject, use that valid means of knowledge to know that subject. When it comes to Drushya Prapancha, the mysteries of Drushya Prapancha, what is seen, Science is the authority there. Right? How this modification is happening, karya karana sambandha, cause effect relationship. So, a lot of it, answers to those things will come through science. And that is what we see also, right, in the world around. So much progress has happened in Drushya Prapancha. And it has its own value. Huh? And that also point Guruji mentioned in Living Vedanta. He said, Vyavahara chikitsadi shastrani vividhani syuhu. Means in Vyavahara, for medicine you call or any other field, there are several shastras, means science is there. Let us use all of them to the best possible extent. Now comes the nature of drashta. What is the nature of consciousness which will never become drushya, which will never become an object of our sense perception? In that, the authority is Vedanta. So both difference, if we understand, there is no conflict and there is no mix-up. There is no need for a mix-up also. If we say atoms are at the finest, substratum, whatever we call it, string, the subatomic particles, the string theory, only one question Vedanta will ask: is it drushya or is it drashta? Means is it seen by somebody or is it the seer itself? Can the atoms see something else? So when we see with this inquiry, we'll realize no matter what we take, everything will fall under drushya category. And for drushya category, there is pramana. Science itself is the best, authority there. But when it comes to substratum of creation, when it comes to nature of drashta, consciousness which is seeing this creation, there Vedanta will be pramana. We can look at it from a logical standpoint also, but I don't want to enter there too much. If existence, the question we should ask is, does every object need a substratum or not? If we say atoms are, at the finest place, where do atoms appear? Right? Where does the finest particle, where does it appear? Is it appearing in another object, or is that substratum different from that object? If it is another object, then you will end up with just infinite regression. Right? Everything will keep having some kind of infinitude. So it has to be something which is different from that object, which is consciousness. But that consciousness, we cannot say is of the same degree of reality. So that object will be an appearance in consciousness. Sometimes later, if we get a chance, we will look at this guna dravya sambandha. That is where this concept comes from. That every object that we see is known only through its guna. It should have another thing which is its dravya. Okay, this is Nyaya language. Guna dravya sambandha should be always there. So like if we say water, right? Now sambandha or guna of water is, why water? If you take a simpler example, let us take earth. Guna of earth is gandha. Right? Wherever there is gandha, there is earth. That is why perfumes, if you take, even if it doesn't have, if we can't see earth, if we can smell something, that means gandha or prithvi amsha is there in that. perfume. So like this guna dravya sambandha has to be there always. So between consciousness and objects, can there be guna dravya sambandha? This is the question. Means substratum and the object which is appearing there, can it have such kind of sambandha, or is it always superimposed and substratum kind of sambandha? I know this concept we have not explained before, but whenever maybe in some other text we will elaborately look at this. Why should a thing have a substratum? Okay, but main point is we need not mix up both these things and get confused. Let science be where it is, and it has its own, glory, and Vedanta has its own. If consciousness or Sakshi is a witness, then why or how is it of the nature of Ananda? So, here again, the topic that we discussed is helpful, because when we say Ananda, our general understanding is Vritti Ananda. Vritti Ananda means happiness experienced at thought level. And it could be triggered by any object. If you want a very precise definition of Ananda, right, Vritti Ananda, that is this one. Anukula Vritti triggered by Vishesha Paristhiti. Anukula Vritti means favorable. Favorable thought triggered by some special circumstance. That is called as Ananda. Ananda at what level? Mind level. Huh? That is what we are familiar with. And we realize that this Ananda is limited. Means it has so many constraints around it that every time this Ananda comes, it has a very finite duration. After some time, Paristhiti changes, this Ananda also changes. So limited Ananda is another name of Dukkham only, actually speaking. But for us to understand, that is our colloquial understanding of Ananda. When we say Sakshi is of the nature of Ananda, what we mean is Sakshi is aparichinna. It is not finite. Not finite in time, not finite in space, and not finite in objects also. I mean, there is no object where consciousness is not there. There is no place where Sakshi is not present. I'm using the word Sakshi, because Sakshi alone is Brahma, which is all pervading. And there is no time when Sakshi is absent. That which is unconstrained by these three things is called Ananda. Now, Vishayananda is just a reflection of this Ananda. Because even if you look at that time, right, when we get some object, for that fraction of a second, this sense of finitude is taken away from us. But unfortunately, it comes back after some time. That is where this difference happens. So Vishayananda is different, and Brahmananda, what we are speaking about as nature of Sakshi, that is different. Okay, there are some more questions here, but I think we'll pause. Just want to keep check of the time also. And some other questions we'll take later. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om. Hari Om everyone.